Welcome to our first ever Transformative Storytelling Series. Yeah, this has been a long time in the making, since last quarter. My name is Roya. I'm part of the team here at Galvanize, and I'd love to see a show of hands. How many of you, this is your first time to Galvanize? Whoa, so many of you. That's amazing. Well, we are a learning community for technology, so we provide entrepreneurs access to the people, resources, and knowledge that they need in order to be successful, to learn and grow in their business. We also offer a data science and web development intensive immersive programs. So we're unique in the sense that we have members and students under one roof, and we're able to provide them the resources that they need to be successful and really take full advantage of everything that our community has to offer. So we have a lot of tactical programming in place, and really the inspiration behind our inspirational storytelling series was to provide more inspirational programming. So we are super, super excited to have Naveen as our first guest. We've partnered with George Arabian from Steelhead Ventures and to bring this awesome content and dynamic thought leadership to you at Galvanize. So Steelhead has worked with founders, venture partners, VCs, executive leadership teams, really to make an impact not only in our community, but in the future of our world. So before I invite George to the stage, I just want to take a second to talk about Slido. We'll be using Slido to field questions. Very easy. Just go to slido.com and put in the unique code, and then you can submit your questions. So you don't need to download anything. And then afterwards, we'll do a Q&A. And with that, I'd love to invite George to the stage.
Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Awesome. Well, I'm going to do a short, but it might not be so short, intro to Naveen. He grew up in New Delhi in very humble roots. His dad was actually a civil engineer. And unlike the practices at the time, the story goes that he did not take bribes. So he grew up truly with humble roots. In 1979, he was accepted into the prestigious Indian Institute of Technology. He graduated with a degree in engineering and had a sense of entrepreneurship given that great educational environment that he had at the university. It was a lot of alumni created both business and social enterprises that attended that university that made an impact on what India has become today. So it was a great foundation for him. And he traveled and took his first job in New Jersey at what was Burroughs. And today, that's called Unisys. From there, he really got restless and got that startup bug, which I'm sure none of you know anything about. But moved here to the Valley and really worked with multiple startups and was able to secure a job with Microsoft. He actually joined them in 1989 and still holds 3 patents with what was Windows 95. While at Microsoft, he joined the management team of Microsoft Network. Around the time of this company that was unknown at the time until they went public called Netscape, he really had a vision. He had that restlessness, and he created InfoSpace. I certainly remember them well, but what was so unique about InfoSpace is that he was creative in the way he put it together. It was a platform in the true sense of the word. He put directories, maps, games, services into InfoSpace and allowed others to raise money, buy users, the portals of the time, Lycos and Excite, but he would license his platform and get a rev share. And he was able to create that company without funding. He bootstrapped it in the dot-com era, which was an amazing accomplishment. At the peak, he had a price of $1.38. It was worth $31 billion, and it was one of the leaders in what was the first wave of the web 1.0, as we call it. From there, what goes up certainly must go down. And certainly the web went through a trough, as you know, the dot-com bust. Naveen went through a period of challenges and conflicts and settlements, but emerged out of it with, in fact, a settlement that he did at InfoSpace. And he started Intellisys, which was a platform that really profiled background on people and sold that. Started in 2004 or 3, he founded it. Revenue of $18 million by 2004. By 2007, it was $88 million in revenue and $22 million in profit. Sorry, I'm pretty loud speaker, but I got to speak louder. So from there, he really also reformed, if you will, the company in 2012 and sold it in 2015. He co-founded Moon Express in 2010, and we're going to learn more about that today, with a mission to build a machine-operated satellite that goes to the moon and mines minerals. I'm going to let him speak more about that. They won a contract from NASA. They are participating in Google's Lunar X Prize contest or event that, again, he could speak to. But I want to move on quickly now and invite him to the stage. Just quickly, a few more details on a personal basis. Married with 3 sons. He's on the board of Kairos, which his son founded, which is an entrepreneurial organization for under 25. It's a phenomenal group. He also was awarded in 2011 the prestigious Light of India Business Leadership Award. Guess what? For visionary entrepreneurship. Without further ado, Naveen, please. So we really have a forum here that was part of a vision around the art or the lost art of storytelling. And we invited Naveen with this sense of what can all of us gain through the prism, through the eyes of an entrepreneur, what learnings, what insights, given the journey and the phenomenal impact that Naveen has made in his career. So I'm going to just start with an opening question, Naveen, and this is very much your story. But where did that journey start, that entrepreneurial journey? And what was the genesis of that? And I'll leave it to you to answer.
So let me actually skip that question. Let me just start with something because I want to talk about you and how you, each one of you here, can do something that is so amazing that you find your own moonshot. So we are living in this decade, which is probably one of the most innovative decades in the human history. There has never been a time ever in the human history where each individual has a power to change the trajectory of how humanity is going to live. What is happening is the exponential technologies that we have at our disposal, despite whether we live in the slums of India or you live in the heart of Silicon Valley, it absolutely makes no difference. Each one of us has access to the same set of information, same set of technology, and same set of people. It's no longer to work together, you have to be physically next to each other. In fact, I live in Seattle, and my latest venture, which I'm going to talk about in a second here, which I think is probably another moonshot. But before I go there, what's going to say was, it is in 5 different cities. And I am physically there in all 5 cities through a remote robotics. So essentially, think of this as a location shifting. Just like the DVR allowed you to do a time shifting, that allowed you to watch the things on your own time, a location shifting device allows you to be in multiple locations at the same time. So I can have a meeting in Bombay, and I can have a meeting in London, and I could be sitting on the beach at BVI. It doesn't matter. They don't know where I am. I am physically in their office, and I talk. What is most interesting I find is that one of my companies called Moon Express. And you said, why would you want to go to the moon? And the best way I could describe is to actually go back of what caused us to go to the moon. And there was probably one of the most inspirational speech by our President, John F. Kennedy. So I'm going to rephrase John F. Kennedy. We chose to go to the moon not because it's easy, because it's a great business. And that's what the entrepreneurs do. We think of it as a great business, not because it's the end of Cold War, because we think it is an amazing business. And what makes an amazing business? Let me tell you about that. So, as an entrepreneur, our job is not to look at what it is, but to look at what it can be. How many of us in this room will look at each other and when we're talking about, well, he's kind of an optimistic. He always looks at the glass as half full. And that girl sitting next to me, always pessimistic. She always looks at the glass being half empty. The question really for an entrepreneur is, does it really matter whether the glass is half full or half empty? The only question you need to answer is, do I want to fill the glass? And if I want to fill the glass, does it really matter is half empty or half full? The only thing you need to find out is, what am I going to fill the glass with? And if I don't want to fill the glass, I don't really give a shit whether it's half empty or half full. Right? And that is really the thing. When you are a leader, an entrepreneur and a leader, how many times as a CEO, you got so frustrated, you say, you know what? I can only lead him to the water. I can't make him drink. I'm just done. As if it is your job to make someone drink. What if you were a great leader or a great parent, all you have to do is make them thirsty. If you make them thirsty, imagine what happens. They will find their own water. And not only they will find their own water, they will drink. Right? So that's all we have to do as a leader. Entrepreneur job is to make them so thirsty, make them so curious that they can't sleep. All they want is more water. Every time they nap, they say, I need water. Right? And that's what we do. We tell the stories, and it's not about you as an entrepreneur. So difference between an entrepreneur and a cult leader. What is that? When you start, you have nothing except the vision. Remember the vision? The third eye? We all have a vision and a passion that allows people to follow that vision. And if you are a cult leader, your loyalty is to that person who has the vision. If you are an entrepreneur, you take that loyalty and you put that to the cause. And when the cause of the company that you have becomes everyone's cause, you are an entrepreneur. When the cause becomes your cause and everybody follows you, you are a cult leader. Right? So don't be a damn cult leader. Good. So now, coming back to it, Moon Express, everyone says, what makes it a great business? You know, you can keep smiling, so I'm going to keep going anyway.
Okay. This is your story.
So George's job was, I told him, don't need to worry about asking me questions. Just get me started. It doesn't matter what you ask me, I'm going to go on anyway.
I had due warning, didn't I?
So let's go back. So Moon, imagine, it's only a matter of time. I would say in the next 10 to 15 years, we are going to be living on the moon. If I can predict today, in 10 years, within $10,000, which is a nice ticket to Sydney, you could be going to the moon. And if the technology cooperates in the next 15 years, it'll be faster to get to the moon than to go from here to New York. Imagine that. Why go to the moon? We all live in this single spacecraft called planet Earth. This planet Earth, the spacecraft is flying in the space. Really dangerous place. Imagine if we get hit by a large asteroid. You know what will happen? We'll all be dinosaurs. Imagine every single dinosaur rolling up in their grave. You know what are they thinking? God, if they had one good entrepreneurial dinosaur, they'll still be around. Somebody would have taken them to the moon or the Mars and they'll still be around. But there was no damn entrepreneurial dinosaur at that time. Let not that happen to us. So, we're going to actually create a multi-planetary society where people will be able to live on not just on the moon, but also on the Mars. And there is no doubt the Mars at the end is a better destination than the moon. However, moon is only 3 days away. So imagine, would you rather be a lunatic 3 days away or be a Martian 6 months away? I'll be a lunatic all day. Right? The problem of living on the moon are identical to the living on the Mars, which is high radiation, very wide temperature differences, and low gravity. And everyone probably thinking, how could you possibly live away from Earth with all that radiation? Wouldn't the radiation kill us? It's amazing. The nature is an amazing, amazing things. It did amazing things. We find the bacteria that grows in the radioactive nuclear waste. You talk about radiation. It thrives in the nuclear active waste. In fact, when we completely try to make our spacecraft completely hygienic and we take them and bring them back, those damn bacteria are still alive. They went through all that. So nature has created the genetic material, not only that can survive the radiation, it uses the radiation as source of energy to thrive. So imagine if you can take the genetic material from that bacteria and use the CRISPR technology to genetically edit our cells, not only we become the radiation resistant, one day, instead of say, hey honey, let's have pizza, we can say, honey, let's go for a walk, get some radiation. And that's going to be our source of energy. In fact, someday, there is going to be a gentleman on its knees asking his sweetheart, honey, will you go to the moon with me for our honeymoon? Because honeymoon is going to be taking your honey to the moon, not taking your honey to Hawaii. Because we're going to call that what? Honey Hawaii, right? Now, imagine when we go to the moon, what's there on the moon? 16 quadrillion worth of resources. One of the richest natural place. What if that became our 8th continent and completely connected just like any place else? So when you make a call, it'll be the same internet, same cell phone network, and you'll be talking as if you're there. You could be beaming in, you could be beaming out, and it'll be just like connected. With amazing amount of natural resources. The beauty of the moon is it has tremendous amount of water. Water is the oil for the space economy. Hydrogen and oxygen. You can fuel the rocket, and you can fuel the humanity with oxygen. So imagine, one day, we're going to have a child born on the moon, and the parents are going to be sitting next to the children and saying, son, look up. We come from that blue marble. We should go visit our home planet someday. And that's what's going to happen. Our plan is to, obviously, on moon, there is a tremendous amount of helium-3. Helium-3 is probably one of the best resource as a clean energy source. A tiny amount of helium-3 could power this planet for generations to come and completely non-radioactive. However, it requires a fusion reactor. And how many of you are thinking, what a nutcase? There are no fusion reactors right now. As an entrepreneur, you don't build the company based on where the puck is. You build the company where the puck is going to be. It's going to take us 10 years to bring the nice helium-3 here. And when they have everyone has built a fusion reactor, everybody's going to be looking around. Does anybody have helium-3? Yeah, got one. You want some helium-3? And that's what the entrepreneurs do. They look beyond what is to what it can be. So as I was doing this Moon Express, and I was thinking, this could be my legacy. This is it. I can hang my hat, and I have done enough to move the humanity forward. Imagine I saved the humanity from extinction. I got right to chill and relax now, right? Not so. It turns out humanity still had challenges. And I keep looking around at all these people, and I'm thinking, God, somewhere here, there is a great set of entrepreneurs who are going to go out and solve all of the problems that are facing humanity. So, how many in this room would want to build a multi-billion-dollar company? Come on, raise a hand. Come on, be honest with yourself. I can tell you a simple, easy way of doing it. Really easy. The two things you need to do, and you can pick either one, and both will get you there. Go do something that's going to go out and help 1 billion people. That's it. You don't have to do a lot more. Or go out, solve a $10 billion problem. That's it. You solve a $10 billion problem, you got a $1 billion company in your hand at least. Right? And that's it. What happens to be these large problems? People call them social problems. And the reason they never get solved, because we think that's the job of some social entrepreneur. When you call someone a social entrepreneur, basically what you're saying is, you really are a shitty entrepreneur, but you're doing something good, so we're going to give you a consolation prize, and we're going to call you a social entrepreneur. Because if you really were a good entrepreneur, we'll just call you an entrepreneur, right? A great entrepreneur solves the big problem. So, here is the simple thing when you start a company. Ask yourself one question. God forbid, if I'm actually successful in doing what I'm trying to do, would it help hundreds of millions of people? Would it solve a problem that is a $10 billion problem? And if the answer is no, go do something else. Easy way of finding out whether you're on the right track or wrong track is when you tell someone what you are doing and they nod their head, you're not thinking big. Unless they say, you are goddamn crazy. Then you're thinking right. So when people ask me, what am I doing? I say, I'm going to go mine the moon. You say, you goddamn crazy. And I say, good. Now at least I've got one thing right. The only caveat, if you happen to be crazy, then all bets are off. Right. So, as I was doing this Moon Express, I looked around and thinking, holy cow. I was talking to a bunch of scientists at NASA and at Los Alamos National Lab. And they were talking to me about genetic materials and the genes. I was pretty fascinated. I'm a curious guy. And here's what the fascinating thing I found. That we as humans, we are all pretty proud of ourselves, aren't we, right? We as humans are our genetic expressions, the number of genes in our body, 98 to 99% of the genes are microbacteria. They're bacteria. You may be damn proud of who you are. You are simply a beautiful container for microbacteria. That's all we are. We are simply a container for bacteria. Less than 2% of our genes are inherited from the human mammals. 98% of all of our genes are microbes. Here's a very interesting thing. In the 20th century, when the healthcare system was designed, it was designed for one simple thing. People were dying from simple infections. Infectious disease was killing humanity. God bless the guy who developed a nuclear bomb called penicillin. That nuclear bomb called penicillin did an amazing job of killing anything that is infectious. It did so good, it killed all the microbial thing in the body as well. That was just the side effect of the nuclear bomb. You know what happened? that caused the new set of 21st century diseases called chronic diseases. We don't die from infectious diseases anymore. You know what we die from? The heart failure, the cancer, Alzheimer, the Parkinson's, the eczemas, autoimmunity. Every one of these diseases I mentioned is simply a disease of the gut. Every one of them is simply the Parkinson's starts in your gut, not in your brain. Alzheimer, it starts in your gut, not in your brain. In fact, whether the cancer treatment works or does not work, it's today's news. It depends on your microbiome. Autoimmune disease is a disease of the gut. So imagine, what if you could analyze, you could have a Hubble telescope that showed in the galaxy there are billions of stars out there. What if the Hubble telescope could look inside your body and see these trillions of these microbes and what they're doing? And what if the best blockbuster drug was simply the food? Just the right diet and nutrition is all you need, and no drugs. Imagine if we can create a world where sickness was a choice we made. A sickness is not something that happened to us. That was a choice we made. And that's why I started Viome with a simple moonshot. Can we together create a world where illness is elective? You make the choice to be sick, not because sickness happens to you. All right? So my point is, everything that we need to solve these problems, we can't rely on the government. It's not the Obamacare, it's not the Trump care that's going to solve the problem. It is an entrepreneur here who's going to solve the problem. When we land on the moon, not only we become the first company ever to achieve that feat. In fact, we are the only company in the universe that has a permission to land on the moon. And someday somebody's going to ask me, but who gives the damn permission to land on the moon? We'll come back to it. We're the only company, the only company that has permission to land on the moon, and I've been waiting to say that, and we're going to go there this year. Not next year, this year. Right? Now, when we land on the moon, we become the fourth superpower. The fourth superpower. That shows the next set of superpowers are not going to be the nation states. The next set of superpowers are going to be the entrepreneurs. So imagine that. The people in this room are going to be the superpowers, not the countries. Countries have absolutely no control anymore. We have access to the information, we have access to technology, we have access to resources to solve the problems that used to be the domain of these nation states. So imagine what happens when the entrepreneurs take control to solve the problems. And I'm going to give a couple of examples, then I'm going to actually stop so he can ask me the next question, which I'm going to ignore again. Right. So every set of technology that comes along, what happens is normally in the past, there was always one technology at a time, and people were able to cope with that disruption that happened because of one technology at a time. This is the first time in the human history where the convergence of so many exponential technologies are happening at the same time, whether it's a big data, whether it's a neuroscience, artificial intelligence, and self-drive, that's making the self-driving cars, 3D printing, all these things are happening at the same time. And it is not the primary impact of the technology that matters. It is the secondary and the tertiary impact of technology that most people never realize, and that's where the disruption happens. There is not an industry that won't be disrupted, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples just to give you an idea how to think about the problems. So let's just start with something really simple first. A fresh water problem. We all agree this planet has a lack of clean, fresh water. Even though 70% of the planet is nothing but water, but that's all salt water, right? And people say the lack of fresh water is the big problem. Until some entrepreneur realizes if I solve the freshwater problem, I would have solved the humanity's big challenge, right? Until the next guy comes along and says, but do you know the majority of the water, fresh water, is used for agriculture? And all I have to do is solve the agriculture problem. Instead of using the current method of agriculture, what if I can use aquaponic or aeroponic? And suddenly I have now saved the fresh water for the humanity. And person is feeling really good about being really brilliant, right? Until the next guy comes along and say, you know what? The majority of the agriculture is used to feed the cattle. And all I have to do is not have to raise the cattle to get the meat. If you want to eat the beef, I'm not a judgmental guy. You can have the biofactories that take the stem cell from a cow and nothing but muscle cells, and that all can be beef without raising the cattle. Guess what happens? That has all the land for agriculture, all the land, all the free water. And here's the best part. How many of in this room people actually care about the environment? Raise your hands. Only one person, two people, three. Nah, we're all damn capitalists anyway. Who cares? Right? If you care about the environment, you know what the number one cause of the damage is? Cattle. A cattle feed is the biggest damage. The methane the cows produce is the biggest damage to the environment. And all you have to do if you care about the environment is to drive a Ferrari and stop eating meat. Right? Don't drive your Tesla or Prius. It does absolutely nothing. Just stop eating meat once a week. Even if you do that, you're doing more for the planet than you're driving Tesla. So imagine that, right? So point was understanding what causes what is allows you to solve the big problems. And I'm going to give you one more example on, everybody knows about the self-driving cars, right? So self-driving cars is pretty easy to see how that will impact the automotive companies, right? It's pretty easy. You don't have to probably own the car because any time you need a car is going to be available to you. Someday you need a Ferrari because you're taking a date out, and someday you need a Prius because you're going on a long drive, right? But you don't need to own a car. It's pretty simple to see there's not a lot of leap of faith there. Imagine if you don't need to own the car, you don't need to have the car being parked right next to you at the work. All those parking lots in the cities, what if they become the affordable housing now? All the parking lots, you don't need the car to be there. Car can be somewhere else. If you don't need those parking lots and they become the affordable housing, and at the same time, since the cars are now communicating among themselves, they don't need to build so many roads. What happens to the caterpillars of the world? Construction companies, because you don't need to build so many roads. So construction companies are impacted. Cars are not getting into accident. That means the auto insurance has got impacted. And the worst thing is people are not dying. The life insurance is being impacted. And the worse yet, now you can actually be living far away from the urban areas. So think about, why do you need to live in the Manhattan anymore for your work when you could be living in a suburb and your car becomes your office, the holographic meetings. And you could be anywhere and the car is driving and you're in the office and it's just office on the wheel. And no longer you need to stay close to the work. So imagine how many industries are being disrupted by one single technology. Right? So, now a chance for you to ask the next question.
Well, what's amazing is you answered all the questions I was going to ask.
Ask me something else.
That's amazing. So we have entrepreneurs out here. You have done enough startups, Naveen. What is that sense of wisdom you would offer them for that early stage startup?
Okay.
Please.
So number one thing, and you got to close your ears. Never take the VC money.
Love it.
A money that you take from venture capital is the most expensive thing you will ever do. If you believe them that they are on your side, okay, so you get the answer, right? So yeah. They are never on your side. They have a one simple job. If your company is being successful, how to take more of it, and if it's failing, how to take more of it. Right? They have no other job. Their job is not to make you money. Their job is not to make you successful. Your job, think about when you're a first-time entrepreneur, a small exit is a big deal for you. You could sell the company for $4 or $5 million. It will change your life. For a VC, it's not a home run. He's got an 8% hurdle to cross. He would rather go big or go home. He would rather have you lose $5 million exit and focus on a $50 million exit and die. He doesn't care. It's not his money. He wants a big exit. You want a small exit. So if you're an entrepreneur, focus on getting a single first, double next, before you start hitting the home runs, because you want to be able to go do things that essentially now are able to do without someone telling you, you got to take more money. Go aggressively market it. Go out and spend all the money marketing it. Go big, go big, go big, right? All you care about is, can you build a business good enough that somebody would want, so you have enough money to be able to build the next business?
Thank you for that. And by the way, having spent most of my career alongside an entrepreneur like Naveen, building companies across the globe the hard way, I agree with that.
Thank you.
100%.
So other advice, I want to give you a couple of more advice as an entrepreneur, which I really think that I have learned. When you're looking for a friend, you want someone who is just like you, who loves the same thing, does the same thing, thinks the same way. When you're looking for a co-founder, find someone who is very unlike you. Every time you tell him your vision, he looks at you and says, you're damn crazy, but I'll just go do it if that's what you want me to do. That means you want people who are complementary to your skills. An operational guy is not the guy you want to say, yeah, dude, I love your vision. Let me tell you what else we should be doing. His job is to say, I have no idea where you're going, but I'll keep cutting the trees if that's what you want me to do. Right? So you find people who are complementary skills, because you can't be good at everything. So you find the things that you are good at and just focus on that, and surround yourself with the people who are complementary, who are very unlike you. And it will drive you nuts. You don't have to hang out for them for a beer. You just have to work together.
That's great advice. That is awesome.
Right. There's seriously, there are a lot of other things that I think as an entrepreneur, you really, really want to focus on. It is not everyone here would talk about what a great idea they have. You don't build a successful company with a great breakthrough idea. You build a great company through a flawless execution. So you steal the ideas and you execute well, right? Ideas are a dime a dozen. So the best thing you can ever do, honestly, is whatever your idea is, share. Don't hold on to it. Because people say, if I share my idea, I want you to sign a non-disclosure. What if you do it? If all you have is your damn idea, you have nothing. If someone can execute on your idea that you have been thinking about for so long and do a better job, you better get out, because you're going to lose anyway. Right? When you share ideas, people object to them. And you can always fool them and give them the answer, but you know inside what the problem is. You learn a lot. When you share ideas, ideas have sex. And they have the kids who have beautiful ideas come out of that. And that idea sex is what allows us to become a better entrepreneurs.
Awesome advice. You know, one of the things that I've seen is, and you could sense this.
One more advice, and then I'm done. The reason I'm saying it, because I've seen them all, and I want to make sure that I share with you, because I want to make sure it's stories about you. When you are an entrepreneur, don't focus on making money. Making money is a byproduct of doing things that are great, that are really going out and helping people, and that are product that actually solves a problem. How do you know your problem? You're solving a problem when you're selling a Motrin, not a vitamin. Selling Motrin is really, really easy. People who have a headache, you ask them, do you have a headache? Yep, I got a Motrin. That's a sale. As selling vitamin is a bitch. Well, I think you should be taking vitamin C. Now I feel really good. No, you really don't feel good. It's really good for you if you take vitamin. And you spend half an hour trying to convince someone why they need that vitamin. Right? So to me, making money is like having an orgasm. If you focus on it, you're never going to get it. So enjoy the process.
Naveen, you're killing it. You're killing it. I love it. So, Naveen, this is what's so interesting about both the passion and the words, right? You sense this passion. Let's talk about those dark moments. Let's talk about those challenges where there is nothing left. All the cards have turned. You've seen it. What have you done in your own life to counter and overcome that?
So actually, cards have never turned. It's your mind starts to believe the cards have turned. Success is always around the corner just before you end up giving up. So let me tell you how the life works. As an entrepreneur, your ideas, your initial idea may not work. Your second idea may not work. You only fail when you give up. So, losers give up and entrepreneurs pivot. Right? So you constantly are, right, seriously, you keep pivoting until you find. You keep learning and changing and adapting and pivoting. When the absolutely you think nothing is going to work is the time you'll find something that's going to work. In my first company, I was down to the last 50K. I had 250K saving in my total account that I've saved at Microsoft. I started a company, I was down to the last 50K. Put the group of 8 people in the round circle, we're sitting on the floor. Guys, we got 1 month to live. What are we going to do? We got to figure out how to generate revenue. And this is a true story. In those days, there's no business model. In the internet 1.0, there was no business model. Nobody knew who should be paying who. Everybody thought the same $1 went to everybody's pocket and everybody had their $1 revenue. We were just paying each other. There was no revenue model. Next day, my biz dev guy calls me and says, you know what, we've been talking about these classifieds. I got someone who says they will give us all the content for sale by owner, all the content for free. And we can take all the money we want, advertising, we can do whatever we want. They're going to give the content for free. That's a good way for us to start building a company. What happens when I'm down to the last money? I said, dude, I don't need the damn content. I need the money. Go tell them I don't want his content. I want him to pay me. And he looks at me and says, you're damn crazy. He picks up the phone, calls the guy. He said, I talked to my CEO. He said, he doesn't want your content. He wants you to pay him. And he's silence. 30-second silence sounds like a lifetime on the phone. And he stopped. 30 seconds later, the voice of the other says, how much? Business model was born.
I love it. This is a bit off. Naveen, what do you attribute that never say die attitude to?
See, when you come from a humble root, nothing can, what is somebody's going to take away from you? Your food? Already gone. Place to sleep? Doesn't exist, right? So point is when you have nothing to lose, you can go out and do the things that are craziest things to do. When you are successful, you have nothing to lose. You can go out and do the craziest thing you want to do. Either way, what I have learned is if you never ever give up and you keep pushing the envelope, and this is my spirituality side of the things, the universe will come together. People will come and find you around you to help you. All you have to do is ask. Ask for help. There's very rarely in my life I walked up to someone and said, will you please help me? I need your help. And they will say, Just go away. They at least ask me what. Right? And some of the time they even help me. But the point is, that is the beauty, is to ask for help. Even if I am calling the airlines, I'm not kidding you. This is the best tip I can give you. The first thing, I never tell them what the problem is. I said, ma'am, would you please help me? I need help. And she says, what? She said, I booked the wrong flight. I know, even though I want to change the flight, I say, I booked the wrong flight. I am a complete moron. I wanted to book it for Sunday. I got it for Friday. What was I thinking? And she said, you know what, normally we have a change fee, but I think I can waive it.
I want to open this up to all of you. I mean, this has been a phenomenal thank you. Again, answering all my questions. How did you know?
Oh, yeah.
How did you know?
He's probably
that's just amazing. So I really want to answer it. So we're going to go to this. Let me start, though, with one that I think really summarizes some of the secret sauce, if you will. Naveen, what are your daily rituals that keep you motivated and focused every day? How have they evolved over time?
So let me tell you, first of all, that's a shitty question. So whosoever asked that, that's not the right question. Here's why. Never, ever follow the habits of successful people. You follow their mindset. You follow their thought process. Tony Robbins takes the ice bath every morning. I swear you can take an ice bath twice a day and you're not going to become Tony Robbins. Right. So it doesn't really matter what the people do. It matters how they think. So the right question you need to be asking is, what is the mindset of the people? Right? So let me answer that one.
We're going to open it up here in a minute. But there's a couple other questions here that are coming through. So in terms of that first one, what advice would you give our youngest female innovators?
So that actually is a
9 to 18 years old specifically, underserved communities, et cetera. I mean, it's right there.
That actually is a really good question. So I'm going to give you a true story about what happened to my daughter. My daughter, so even though he said I have 3 sons, but what does he know? He's a venture capitalist probably.
Yeah, no.
Just kidding. So seriously, so I have a wonderful daughter, 16-year-old. She comes to me and said, Dad, I know you love science and technology. I want nothing to do with science and technology. I have found my true passion. That's what I want to do. Just get used to it. Most parents would say, oh, you have a passion. Let me help you pursue your passion. Right? That's same as saying, I just don't have a time. I don't give a shit. Just do whatever you want. That's really what you're saying. My answer to her was, sweetie, you're not letting Dad do his job. What is Dad's job? Dad's job is really simple. Expose you to enough things before you get to make a decision. You're too young to have a passion. You're not even being exposed to things yet that you don't know what you don't like yet. So how can you possibly have a passion? What is it that you would like me to do in that case? Glad you asked. I would like you to go to Singularity University, and I would like you to learn about nanotechnology and the neuroscience and the genetics and the artificial intelligence. And you know what she did? She rolled her eyes.
Yeah.
Dad, did you just not hear what I said? I have no interest in science and technology. I know you don't even hear a word I say. Sweetie, I heard every word you said. The question you didn't ask me is, how do we resolve it? So, Dad, you have a solution. Sure do. So here's what we're going to do. If you make me a promise, you're going to go there with an open mind, wanting to like and wanting to learn. And if you do that, when you come back, you can decide whatever you want, and I'll support it. She being a smart girl, she did that. She came back, I'm almost done. And the first thing she said was, Dad, I made up my mind. And my first words were, oh, shit. She said, Dad, I have decided I'm going to be either a neuroscientist or geneticist. This time it was time for me to roll the eyes. And I said, really, sweetie, at the risk of you changing your mind, can you tell me what actually happened here? She said, Dad, you're so dumb. I am in high school here. I go to my science classes. I mix things here. I'm thinking, why do I really care? Why would I ever use this? Everything I'm studying in high school, I have no idea why am I doing this. Until I went to the Singularity University and I realized I care about girls' education. How am I going to change girls' education unless I know how their brain works? I care about girls' health. I don't even know about genetics. How am I going to help them? I realize science and technology is simply the tools in my tool chest for me to do what I want to do. It's not the destination. Imagine that. So now, if I had done like most parents, not only she would have never found her true passion, the world would have lost out on a great entrepreneur.
Thank you, Naveen. Thank you. Looking back, is there anything you regret you did not do?
You know, I just never ever regret or live in the past. I can't change the past. The thing I can do is to dream the future. Only thing that I know is impossible for us to do is the thing we believe are impossible for us. The minute I think or you think it's impossible, it becomes impossible for you, not for someone else. So the more people tell me it is not possible, all that means is all those people have taken themselves out of the competition. It's all me, right? So never ever look back of what could have been, should have been, would have been. All you can do is to make the decision about the world that you want to create. If you can imagine the world you want, you can create the world you want. And the best way to predict the future is to create it. So go out and create the future that you want. And there is nothing that you can't do. And I really mean it. There is not a problem. If you ask me, how would you solve this problem? That's a completely social problem. And I can tell you that every problem is a business problem. It is a business model problem. Whether it's a homeless shelter or whether it is the girls who are raped in Africa and you want to help them, they are not a social problems. Those are the business model problem you use to help them to create a business model around it. And if you have a question, I'll be more than happy to answer for you.
That's awesome. Thank you. Let's go to the top there. What did your time at Microsoft in the 90s or before that teach you?
Get the hell out of there before they become a dinosaur. So
you certainly did that.
Yeah, so actually it's very interesting. Microsoft in 90s, there's something was happening called internet. They had no idea what was going on. There was a company called, at that time in late 90s, there was a company called Yahoo just got started, the Netscape and Lycos. And I was thinking, holy cow, there's something is going on. And I quit my job to start a company. Now, what he didn't get right is, in 1990s, the company did something amazing, two parts. One was to create private label when everybody was trying to create a brand, which is right. But here's the best part. Go read my interview in 2000 at Washington Post. This is 12 years, 14 years before, 10 years before the Steve Jobs launched the smartphone. It said, one day, we're going to have a phone that people are going to get their email, the contact, and the calendar, and the stock quote, and the news on their phones. And the lady at the Washington Post said, that is absolutely a crazy idea. We have Palm Pilots. We don't need these things on our phone. One day, you're going to use your phone to pay as a credit card. I'm not writing the history. That is in the year 2000, before there was any smartphone. I realized all the devices that we carried from a pager to Palm Pilots were all going to come together because in a single communication device. And we built the whole company around that when there were no smartphones. I went on to do, when we went public, I told them there are billion cell phones out there in this world. And someday there are going to be 5 billion phones. The only company that is providing the services for these cell phones is InfoSpace. Today, there are not very many phones that can use these services. But what if there were? Would you want to bet against an immigrant? Never bet against an immigrant.
Love it. Let's open it up. I think it's time to maybe take some questions from the audience. So please.
Come and
feel
ask me a
free.
good question, okay?
So I'm going to pass this over to you, please.
How did you get the guts to put all of your savings into something and potentially go to zero?
Well, so the truth be told, it was only 3 quarters. So this is how it happened. I, one day, woke up at Microsoft on Friday, decided I was going to go quit and start a company. Came home and told my wife that I am quitting my job. And she said, what do you mean by you quitting your job? What I mean is that no longer the paychecks will be coming home. And this is what she said. He said, you are most irresponsible husband. You know babies along the way. You're no longer single, you have responsibility. Go back and call them and tell them you made a mistake and you want your job back. And I said, look, we got 6 months of savings. What if I left you the 6 months of saving for you and give me 6 months to go do something, and in 6 months, if I can't get the things right, I'll go get a new job. She said, what makes you think you're going to get another job? So I called someone who said, would they give me a job if I asked them in 6 months? They said yes, and that's how I started the company.
That's a great story. Thank you. Please.
Hello, I'm Tomi Ulkuren, coming from Finland all the way to come to ask this tiny question from you. And I'm working on new energy technologies, basically to create pollutionless and safe energy ecosystem, namely low energy nuclear reactors, LENR, and ZPE, zero point energy. So what do you think about these emerging disruptive breakthrough energy technologies and their capability to solve the energy ecosystem problem?
So I think that clean energy is going to be a big market, right? However, there are lots and lots of technologies, and you have to really see the technology that you're working on. Is it incremental, or is it really on an exponential curve? That means, is the next year is going to be twice as good or twice as cheap? And if the answer is no, don't do it. Because what's happening is in the solar, every 90 minutes, more solar energy falls on planet Earth than we use in the whole year. It's simply a conversion problem. And right now, the cost of the solar and the efficiency of solar is improving so fast that we are almost at parity in most places, like India. We are at parity now. We are at parity at a production level, and within the next 5 to 10 years, we are going to be actually cheaper than any type of energy just simply using solar. So I believe at this point, the nuclear, helium-3, all those type of things are coming along. So unless you really are on an exponential curve, I think I would stay away from any technology that's not an exponential curve right now.
Thank you. One more, please. Yes.
Hey, so for all the moonshot ventures you've been working on, how do you really find people and then basically convince them to work for you if money is not just the only
It's very
priority?
interesting. I'm so glad you asked, because that is the easiest part I have found. So I started this Wyoming, and I was not a single person this time came from my previous company. Every company I've done, they were all the team that worked with me for 20 years plus. In the last company, every single person who worked with me, they went on to start their company. That was the biggest satisfaction for me, that I trained enough everyone to become a great entrepreneur. This was the easiest. All you have to do is to tell someone that if we are successful, we'll change the course of humanity. And without naming names, I can tell you that some of the people that I got took me less than 5 minutes. I had this person, Dr. Helen Massier, PhD microbiology, everything, MD, working at a company with Craig Venter. Craig Venter is focusing on human longevity. What could be bigger than that? And I told her what I was going to do to change the trajectory of humanity. And next day, she was working for us. I hired 3 more people from them. I hired the guy who is the number one person in the artificial intelligence in the country. I can't announce it because he's joining me next month. Number one person. All I did was told him, imagine if we could take this data and change the way people are going to live their lives. Would you rather be working what you're doing, or you made enough money to do something significant? And it so happened, it will also make shitload of money, but none of that is a byproduct. Let us go out, push the envelope so far that every single person will know that we changed the way people lived their lives. And if you can inspire them, there's not a person who would not join. So if you're looking to join any one of my venture, you can reach me, by the way, anytime you want. If you don't get to ask a question, my first name, last name, Naveen Jain @gmail.com, and I read every email. So send me a question anytime you want. Talk to me, ask me anything. But if you're an entrepreneur looking to work with me, anything, just send me an email.
That is awesome. Well, that is awesome.
Thank you.
So, Naveen, I will say that I can't thank you enough for revigorating the art of storytelling, my friend.
Well, thank you.
That was a heck of a story. Let's give him that is awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for asking me great questions.
So this is the beginning of a series, and I'm going to bring Warrior back up because the vision behind this is really to tell that story, bring that art back. And what are those lessons and those wisdoms that come from a journey like we just heard? So Warrior, please, come on back up, and thank you all.
Wow, wasn't that incredible? I feel pretty inspired. I want to thank everyone for coming. This is a series, so please keep an eye out. In the next couple weeks, we will be announcing our next guest, and will be sometime in April or May that we will have the next one. If you guys have any questions about Galvanize, you can come talk to me or any of the lovely Galvanize people here. We would be more than happy to answer those for you. Thank you again so much for coming.